Oh, cool, good. I'm sure Bose is ready. I hope he is. He should be by now. He's had plenty of time. Okay, so let's do on go. 3, 2, 1, go. So our next replay, you're against Drewby, who is your teammate from Root, and he's good. He's a good player, right?
He's one of my teammates.
Of course he's good. Of course he's good. So Drewby. Now this was an earlier version of your build, and you see Drewby has a pretty solid response to what you're doing, or perhaps I think maybe over exaggerates his response. I suppose he goes a bit hardcore on the getting cloak and that. So what's different about this build to what we're going to see later? How does this one differ?
I don't actually remember the specific build here. As we watch it, though, I'll be able to comment on the differences between this and the most recent version that I have.
Yeah, if I recall, you get earlier second gas.
Right.
That's what I can remember.
The newest version, the last time I've used this build is in the last game I played against Silver, and that emphasizes it's basically one Marine, one Ghost timing attack, transition into fast expand Marauders with Stim, and then if they go Banshees, you go Ghosts. If they don't, you go Marauders. And this one is a little less coherent in terms of what its objectives are. Kind of aiming for the early cloak, trying to use that to hold things off, and it doesn't really work out.
So, just to point out, Drewby had played against this build beforehand. There is another replay, so he kind of knows what to expect, but he does scout it anyway, so he knows what's coming in this one. So it gives a good idea of what happens if you lose the element of surprise, and I like to think, I'm sure you'll agree, that the build still works to an extent. Especially, yeah.
I definitely feel like the build doesn't have any major weaknesses. It's not like, oh my god, you scouted the Ghost Academy, now I do X strategy and you lose. I don't feel like anything really has that kind of relationship with this build, which is really nice.
No, it is rather safe. I mean, one thing that people don't realize is the Ghost Academy's not actually that expensive. It's about one maraudering cost, a little bit more than that, but it's not a huge. The main issue is the gas, right?
Yeah, well, the most prohibitive part is the cost of gas on the Ghost itself, not the Ghost Academy.
So as we can see, Drewby does know what's coming, so he reacts with a tank, as far as I can remember, and then he's scared of cloak, right? So is this part of the reason you stopped directly going for cloak, because of what Drewby is doing?
Right. The game we played before this, he actually built a turret at the top of his ramp. So I was expecting something similar. It seemed like cloak would not be the best investment.
Right, I say, I know whenever I play, if I have a cloaked unit, I'm much this is for a not so good player. I'm much less likely to pay attention to it if it's got cloak. But it's amazing how with the cloaked unit, if they can see it, it's a lot weaker. You know, it's suddenly, it feels weaker to me than if it didn't have cloak. I don't know, maybe I'm just being stupid, but so he's prepared with Marines. Now this is good for you, right, with Ghosts?
Yeah, definitely this kind of heavy Marine stuff is what I'm looking for. By the time the Ghost gets to their base, I usually have enough energy for 3 snipes. So you can see here, quickly taking off a couple of Marines. And Ghost, with that plus 10, so they do 20 damage to Marines. Pretty effective, doing a fair amount of damage. But the tank does pop out in time. The damage after the initial skirmish is pretty minimal. Probably should have backed off at that time.
Right, say it's tanks are your main opposition. The tank, when the tank pops out, the push is usually done, isn't it?
Basically, yeah. The Ghost really not very good against tanks.
I'm gonna say you continue to get some more Ghosts here. So, what was your plan with this? Do you think you know, maybe you can sneak in or what?
Honestly, I don't even know. I don't know why I kept making ghosts. I think the fear is banshees, but
Yeah.
I'm not really sure. Like I said, this is a very early version of the build where I was like, ghosts are so cool. Like, what do I need other units for?
Exactly. So that's a good way to develop. And when you've got ghost tech, it's only one additional building. From then on, you can just get marauders, right? See, once you've built a ghost, if you see ghosts aren't going to be any use, you can get marauders still. Marauders are great, as everybody knows. So you usually so you start going marauders. So I'd say from now, when you see your first tank, if you don't see banshees, you just start going pure marauder, right?
Yeah, pretty much. We'll see that in the upcoming replays, which basically getting more than one ghost is not a good idea, except if they're going banshees or very heavy on bio. Ghosts actually do very well, not just against marines, but also against marauders.
Yeah, the snipe's very powerful against them, and I'm pretty sure we see that too. Someone's asking here, if he gets scouted, is there well, if your build gets scouted, apparently, is there enough time to throw down a bunker as a defense?
Like if my opponent scouts the marine ghost, can they get a bunker in time to defend it? Yeah, I mean, it depends on close positions or whatnot, but once you see the Ghost Academy, it still takes another 40 seconds for the ghost to build. Bunkers only take 30 seconds, and then it's 15, 20, 30 seconds for the ghost to actually get across the map to the opponent's base. So you should have plenty of time to get the bunker down and in place.
That's good. So, as we notice here, I thought this was important. You did have enough units when he came with his tanks and whatnot to scare him off. So, it's pretty safe transition, right? One issue here is Ravens seem to be very strong against ghosts. He drops an auto turret and then causes annoyance for you the rest of the game. As you can see at that push at the front, Snipe destroyed all the marines, and look, you're right in his mineral knife. Also, Snipe kills every SCV, which I thought was awesome when I first saw that.
Right.
It's a good harassing tool as well. Snipe has got many uses. But yeah, this is the part that the Raven from here on out starts causing you a lot of trouble. With
This position is okay. Like, I don't have my expansion down, which is problematic, and I've lost some number of SCVs to those two auto turrets, but I was able to deny him an expansion, force him back into his base, got pretty good return on my army, and my army happens to be bigger right now, so it'd be pretty tough for him to actually push out. If I could have minimized the damage from the Raven, which I think was reasonable, not just lost my army for no reason, and taken my expansion a little bit earlier, this game would look a lot better.
Let's say we did choose it because, well, I chose it because it shows a strong transition, and it's only sort of by inexperience that you lost this one. We're in a very good spot. And Ravens just the auto turret. Do you have a good way to deal with Ravens now that you've practiced the build a bit more?
The thing is, the build doesn't rely on cloak as much, and that's really all Ravens are doing. Point defense drone against marauders is the problem. That's true, but I should be able to EMP the point defense drone and or the Raven, and the detection isn't an issue because I'm not really relying on cloak.
Exactly. So you've just got your expansion down. He's got his expansion down. What was your plan here? Do you even remember? Were you just not sure what to do next? You started getting
I thought I was more behind than I actually was. I'm only down 7 SCVs right now, and so I wanted to move in with these ghosts, try and get into his mineral line, and just snipe a whole bunch of units. And that kind of works, except for the tank. And the Raven. Do manage to snipe the Raven, which is really good. But what I really need to do at this point was just kind of back up. Like, I throw away my army again for no reason. Just kind of not really comfortable with the build. You can see, like, you can kind of see how green I am with the execution because I'm not really sure what the best decisions are in terms of overall strategy.
Yeah, so you go for the desperation attacks, and this is the only replay I saw where you use a nuke. Was that because you were desperate? You didn't know how you'd do? You know, you thought you were behind, obviously. How often do you use nukes when you do this build?
I tend to go for a very late factory, and so the nukes generally don't see play until much later in the game, if at all.
Right, so do you ever use the nuke? It's never really a key part of your strategy, is it? You see a weakness and you think, an opening, you think, hey, I can nuke that guy now.
You could use it to maybe break a contain, forcing the unsiege and then moving in with marauders, that kind of thing. But I haven't done the build enough times to easily recognize those situations, and I haven't really been in one of them before.
Mm. So it's something you might add later on. So this is the point in the game where you go for the base race, it ends up being one. Ghosts aren't too great in a base race, but it doesn't work out too well. Does the nuke actually go down? I can't remember. I think it does.
I don't know. I don't really remember those.
At this point, you might perhaps be feeling the loss of tanks, but if you say, for those watching who might be a bit fearful and think, oh dear, well here's the nuke, you might be thinking, this doesn't look so good, I mean the tanks are owning him. It was only by errors of judgment that, you know, you'd have a lot more units in this spot if, say, you hadn't thrown away your units at the beginning.
Correct.
Yeah. My one question here is, why didn't you fly your orbital command away? I know I'm sure you thought this was over, but you fly it the wrong way.
I don't know. Bad decision making.
But the game just rolls out from here. I'm sure you were on vent with him at the time, so you're chit-chatting about this one. I don't know if he's mocking your build or what he's doing, but
he was getting real tired of playing it. I was like, Drew, just one more game. He's like, no, I don't want to play your terrible build. I was like, come on, just one more.
Oh dear, it's that you do actually play him one more after this as well, so you're obviously very persuasive. So anyway, this game pretty much wraps up from here. QXE knows. Well, you know, you're not in a favourable position here, so
yeah,
we can just skip to the end of this one, and our next one. So our next two are a more revised version of the build. It's the most recent version is the one we've got posted on the front page. So we'll load these up, and in the meantime we'll get some more questions, if I'm sure there are some. Let's have a peek.
We're going Ghost vs Silver 2?
Yep, Ghost vs Silver 2, again on Metalopolis. Now, one thing I'm going to ask is, how do you find this on other maps? There were some replays on other maps in your pack you sent me, but we've only shown Metalopolis today. Is it a Metalopolis only build?
When I'm working on a build that's as different and out there as something like this, I like to try and identify what map would it be strongest on. And if I can't get it to work on that map, there's no reason to try it on others. And I feel like just due to the nature of how close the natural is to the main, like you could easily nuke or EMP the command center from below the ramp. And the fact that it's a 4-person map, if it's going to work anywhere, I think it would be on either Metalopolis, possibly Kulas, although Kulas has larger rush distances. So that's why you see the heavy emphasis on Metalopolis.
So this is one question from Siege from IRC. He's asking, basically he's saying, if he runs into 4 or 5 SCVs with his first Ghost and Marine, sometimes the SCV get pulled to defend and his attack fails. He wants to know, like, what can you do in this situation and